A Jackson nursing home employee is killed when police say her boyfriend went to her job and confronted her.
Two families are now left devastated after Jackson police responded to gunfire at the Forest Avenue nursing home. According to Jackson police, the murder-suicide occurred around midnight Friday at Pine Forest Health and Rehabilitation. 20-year-old Destiny Stewart was shot once in the head in the parking lot of the nursing home. Police say 29-year-old Samuel Coleman argued with Stewart before opening fire. Investigators say Coleman then went to his car and shot himself. Stewart was a certified nursing assistant at the facility. Both were transported to a local hospital where they were taken off life support Saturday.
It was supposed to be another quiet night shift at the nursing home, another evening where she helped vulnerable patients, offered comfort, and carried on the calling she believed in. Destiny Stewart, 27, worked as a certified nursing assistant at Pine Forest Health and Rehabilitation in Jackson, Mississippi. She knew the weight of care. She knew responsibility. She knew how to help people at their weakest. But she never imagined that her last act of care would be the beginning of heartbreak for everyone who knew her. That evening, what looked like a calm shift turned tragic. Around 10:30 p.m., Destiny and her partner, Samuel Coleman, were seen arguing in the parking lot of the facility. Witnesses heard raised voices, words that would become part of a final, irreversible moment. Minutes later, gunshots rang out into the night. By the time Jackson police arrived, both Destiny and Coleman lay critically wounded. Destiny had been shot in the head. Coleman had pulled the trigger on her and then on himself. Destiny was rushed to the hospital, but the damage was too severe. Her life, the one she dedicated to caring for others, slipped away under the harsh glare of emergency lights. Coleman, too, did not survive. The two were pronounced dead after both were taken off life support. In the aftermath, the Jackson Police Department publicly called it an apparent murder-suicide. But for her friends and family, the grief was anything but simple. Chief Joseph Wade spoke softly but with pain. If she wanted to move on, that should have been the end of it. It should not have been a situation where you've got to take her life, because now both families are destroyed forever. Tonight, we tell the story of Destiny Stewart, not just her death, but the person she was, the life she lived, and the unanswered questions that still echo across Jackson. What drove a loving caregiver into a deadly argument with the person she was with? Were there warning signs nobody saw? And how could a moment of conflict end in the worst kind of violence? This is more than a crime story. It's a reminder of how fragile relationships can become and how quickly a night of trust can turn into tragedy. Destiny wasn't just a victim. She was someone who spent her life caring for others. And in telling her story, we honor her humanity. Stay with us as we peel back the layers of her life, her final hours, and the lasting impact of that fatal night. Because when someone like Destiny disappears, her memory demands to be understood, not forgotten. Welcome to Lat True Crime Stories. I am your host. Today we are breaking down one of the most twisted cases you've ever seen. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, and leave your comment to tell us where you're watching from. Let's build this community together. Now let's get into it. Before the sirens, before the headlines, there was Destiny. Before her name appeared across news broadcasts, before investigators marked the parking lot with yellow tape, Destiny Stewart was simply known as a gentle, determined young woman who carried warmth into every room she entered. Friends said she had a soft spirit, the kind you don't forget. A caretaker by nature, Destiny found her calling in healthcare, working as a certified nursing assistant at Pine Forest Health and Rehabilitation in Jackson, Mississippi. She wasn't the type to seek attention or praise. Her satisfaction came from small victories, helping a patient sit up for the first time in days, calming someone's trembling hands, making someone feel seen in moments when fear or illness made them feel invisible. She worked long hours, sometimes too long, but she believed in showing up, not just for the job, but for the people who depended on her. Those who knew her describe her as someone who never hesitated to lend a hand, even when she was tired. A coworker once said, "Destiny didn't just clock in, she cared." In a world where empathy is often in short supply, she had it in abundance. But behind every bright spirit, there are shadows. And behind Destiny's smile was a relationship carrying weight that few outsiders fully understood. Samuel Coleman, the 26-year-old man later identified as her partner, wasn't a stranger to Destiny. Their relationship wasn't new, nor was it simple. According to the limited details available, they were involved closely enough that friends recognized them as a pair. But the quiet truth, the one that only becomes clear in hindsight, is that their relationship had reached a breaking point. Reports indicate that Destiny was trying to leave the relationship, a decision that placed her in a vulnerable and emotionally fragile space. Jackson Police Chief Joseph Wade later said something that would echo through the community. If she wanted to move on, that should have been the end of it. But for many people who find themselves in difficult relationships, leaving isn't always a clean, peaceful decision. Sometimes it comes with friction, fear, confusion, or pressure, emotions that ripple beneath the surface long before they erupt. In the days before the tragedy, nothing publicly suggested the storm brewing beneath their interactions. Destiny went to work as always. She helped patients. She spoke with co-workers. She lived her life quietly, unaware that the final chapter of her story was drawing close. It was a Saturday evening like any other. The clocks ticked toward 10 p.m., and Pine Forest Health and Rehabilitation wound down into its usual nighttime rhythm. Dim hallways, soft beeping monitors, the murmurs of nurses exchanging reports. Destiny was on shift. It should have been a routine night, another 8 hours of compassion, responsibility, and dedication. But outside the facility, in the dim light of the parking lot, a conversation was unfolding between Destiny and Samuel. According to witnesses, the conversation quickly turned into an argument, one loud enough that people took notice. Voices rose, emotions sharpened the air, and in that moment, lines were crossed that could never be undone. The parking lot of a healthcare facility is usually a quiet place, a space where staff catch their breath between tasks, where family members say goodbye after visiting hours. It's nobody's idea of a battleground, but that night, it became the center of a devastating confrontation. Witnesses later described hearing Destiny and Samuel in a heated verbal dispute, the kind of argument that carries layers of history behind every word, unspoken frustrations, unresolved emotions, and a heartbreak that had been building long before anyone heard the first raised voice. Then came the sound that shattered everything, gunfire. The moment the shots rang out, it wasn't confusion, it was shock.
Whatever the situation was, if she wanted to move on with her life or if she wanted to end the relationship with him, that should have been the end of it. It should not have been a situation where you got to take her life and then take your life, because now both families are destroyed forever here in the city of Jackson.
Our repeated calls to Pine Forest administration for comment have not been returned. JPD offers conflict resolution training each Monday at 6 p.m. at the Police Training Academy.
Those nearby froze, unable to process what they had just heard. Others ran for cover. Inside the building, nurses and aides stood still for a heartbeat before the instincts of their profession kicked in. When first responders arrived, they found two individuals gravely injured. Destiny Stewart, shot in the head. Samuel Coleman, also critically wounded from a self-inflicted gunshot. Neither of them could speak. Neither of them could explain what had led to that final moment. The truth of what transpired could only be pieced together by witness accounts and the silent evidence left behind. Destiny was transported to the hospital with urgency, but the injuries were too severe. She remained on life support for a brief period before her body succumbed to the damage. Samuel Coleman, too, was taken to the hospital, where he later died after being removed from life support. In a matter of hours, two families were devastated. 2 lives were lost, and the community was left to ask questions with no comforting answers. When the Jackson Police Department announced the case as an apparent murder-suicide, the statement rippled through the city. People were stunned, not just by the nature of the crime, but by the names involved. Destiny wasn't a stranger. She was a caregiver, a daughter, a friend, someone who gave more than she took. The notion that her life had been taken in an argument, that a moment of heightened emotion could lead to such irreversible tragedy, left Jackson grieving and searching for meaning. Chief Wade spoke again in a voice laden with sorrow. Now both families are destroyed forever. Those words became the emotional mirror held up to the entire situation. Two families, two stories, one irreversible moment. But for Destiny, the story didn't end with a report filed or the case closed. Her life, her passion, and her final hours deserve to be understood with empathy, not just summarized in a headline. In the silence after tragedy, the truth begins to speak. When the final echo of gunfire faded into the night sky, what followed was not immediate clarity, only stillness. The kind of stillness that sits heavily on the chest, refusing to let anyone breathe until the full weight of the moment settles. Inside Pine Forest Health and Rehabilitation, staff members stood in stunned clusters. Some leaned against walls, trying to steady trembling hands. Others whispered the same question over and over. What happened to Destiny? No one had an answer yet. The story was tangled in shock, fear, and the surreal feeling that someone they had spoken to just minutes earlier might never walk back through the hallway doors again. But outside, under the harsh beam of police floodlights, investigators began pulling at the threads of a tragedy that would soon unravel heartbreak far beyond the scene itself. Jackson police detectives moved swiftly. They spoke to witnesses first, those who had seen Destiny and Samuel arguing, those who had heard the sudden escalation, those who, through tears, recounted the sound of the shots. Their accounts aligned. There was an argument, heated and emotional. Destiny had been upset. Samuel had been visibly agitated. And then the violence. As officers pieced together timelines, a picture began to form, one that painted the tragedy not as an unpredictable storm, but as the violent culmination of a relationship strained beyond its breaking point. The early investigative findings confirmed what Chief Joseph Wade told the public shortly afterward. She was trying to leave the relationship. Those words struck like a hammer, because they weren't just details. They were the echo of a struggle many victims quietly face. Investigators sifted through phone records, social media posts, recent interactions, and interview after interview. They weren't looking for scandal. They were looking for truth. And the truth was simple, painful, and devastating. Destiny wanted out. Samuel wouldn't accept it. As detectives talked to people close to the couple, a pattern emerged. Destiny had been distancing herself. She wanted peace. She was done with the relationship. She wanted to refocus her life, her job, her future, her well-being. To her, leaving was the first step toward healing. To Samuel, leaving was a threat, a loss of control, a fracture he felt powerless to stop. Friends told investigators that Samuel had been increasingly emotional about losing Destiny. He didn't want the relationship to end. He felt it slipping away and clung harder, hoping she would change her mind. But Destiny had already made her decision. She was ready to move forward. He refused to let go. Behind every word they exchanged that night was a storm of unresolved emotion. Years of connection, months of tension, weeks of difficult conversations, and one final, devastating choice. Investigators understood something crucial. This tragedy wasn't born in a single night. It was the culmination of a slow unraveling. News travels quickly in a close community. When police notified Destiny's family, the world they knew collapsed. Her mother, her loved ones, they were forced into the unthinkable position of hearing that the person they cherished had been taken from them. Not by an accident, not by illness, but by someone she knew, someone she once trusted, someone she had loved. Destiny's family was filled not only with grief, but with questions that had no comforting answers. Why couldn't he walk away? Why couldn't he just let her leave? Why did a disagreement turn into finality? And on the other side of the tragedy, another family was mourning too. Samuel's loved ones had to reckon with something few families ever prepare for. The knowledge that their son, their friend, their brother had taken a life, and his own in the same breath. Two families, both shattered, both grieving, neither able to console the other. Jackson, Mississippi is no stranger to hardship, but this case shook the community deeply. Destiny wasn't anonymous. She was a caregiver, someone who spent her days helping the vulnerable. She represented the quiet heroes who keep healthcare running. People lit candles. They shared memories online. They mourned a life taken too soon. The shock was amplified by the location. It happened at her workplace, the place she felt responsible to, committed to. safe in. The parking lot, once a mundane space, became a symbol of a life lost in the middle of trying to help others. For weeks after, co-workers spoke about her in the hallways. They remembered the way she smiled while adjusting a patient's pillow. They recalled the evenings when she hummed softly under her breath. They looked at her empty locker and felt a weight settle over them that words couldn't lift. The deeper investigators went, the more they uncovered a truth society often overlooks. Leaving is the most dangerous moment for many victims. Destiny may not have spoken of fear. She may not have believed this could happen. Many victims don't. They hold on to hope. They trust in good intentions. They hold faith that emotions can settle, that endings can be peaceful. But not all endings are mutual, and not all partners accept the word no. As detectives closed their case, the emotional fallout was far from over. Destiny's friends carried guilt. The what if we noticed sooner? Thoughts that haunt people after tragedies they couldn't have prevented. Her family carried heartbreak. Memories of her laughter now mixed with the sound of a siren that would never leave their minds. And Samuel's family was left grappling with a dual grief, mourning their loved one while carrying the unbearable weight of what he had done. In most stories, conflict resolves into clarity. But in real life, especially in cases like Destiny's, conflict becomes something else entirely. A wound, a lesson, a warning whispered through the voices of survivors everywhere. When someone decides to leave, let them. When someone says they need space, respect it. When a heart wants freedom, forcing it only leads to tragedy. Destiny's story is not just a case file. It is a reflection, a mirror held up to the realities of relationship violence that rarely make headlines until it's too late. And as the investigation reached its conclusion, something else became clear. This was not just the ending of a relationship. It was the ending of a life and the beginning of a reckoning. Some endings feel too heavy to belong to this world, but they demand to be told. By the time investigators finalized their timeline, the pieces of Destiny Stewart's final moments formed a picture that no one wanted to accept, but everyone needed to understand. The confrontation in the Pine Forest parking lot had been the breaking point of a relationship long strained by heartbreak, fear, and a desperation that turned deadly. Destiny had come to work focused on doing what she always did, showing up for others. She did not know that just steps away, the final chapter of her life was already being written. And when the truth was confirmed that this was an act of violence tied directly to her attempt to leave, the community's grief deepened into something heavier, something closer to sorrow mixed with disbelief. Because Destiny wasn't doing anything wrong. She was simply trying to reclaim her life. When detectives released their findings publicly, the room grew painfully quiet. They explained that Samuel Lewis had taken Destiny's life before taking his own. No one interrupted. No one challenged it. The evidence was clear, but the clarity did not make the truth easier to bear. The lead investigator, speaking calmly but with visible strain, said, "She was trying to leave the relationship. It escalated, and it ended in tragedy." Those words echoed across Jackson, Mississippi like a cold wind through an open window. Trying to leave, trying to protect her peace, trying to follow the path she felt called to. Destiny's decision to walk away, something every person has the right to do, became the very reason her life was taken. This was the climax investigators feared but knew was likely. A story where the final moments were irreversible, final, and devastating beyond language. Behind the press conferences and official statements, two families were learning how to breathe again in a world that suddenly felt unfamiliar. Destiny's family sat in a living room full of people, yet the house felt unbearably silent. They held each other, repeating the same memories as though saying them aloud might make her feel closer. Her soft laugh, the way she clapped her hands when she was excited, the way she called to check on everyone, even on days when she felt overwhelmed. She had been the heart of the home. Now that heart was missing. Her mother kept asking through tears, why couldn't he just walk away? It was not a question anyone could answer, because the truth was never rational. It was emotional, volatile, and devastatingly final. Meanwhile, Samuel's family grieved a different kind of loss. They mourned the child they once raised, the boy they remembered, but they also struggled with the weight of his choices. Two families, two tragedies. one wound that would never fully close. There was no justice system to step in, no courtroom, no sentencing, no trial. With Samuel gone, the legal system had no one to prosecute. The case was closed in the most painful way possible, with a conclusion but without accountability. For Destiny's loved ones, this felt like a second blow. They wanted to see someone answer for what had been done to her. Instead, they were left only with grief. Within days, co-workers began placing small candles near the entrance of Pine Forest Health and Rehabilitation. No one organized it. It just started, one candle, then 2, then 10. Someone left a handwritten card. "Thank you for the light you brought into this building." Another wrote, "You deserve peace." Residents, staff members, and community members passed through the makeshift memorial, some leaving flowers, others leaving nothing but the quiet weight of their grief. Her absence was felt most deeply in the hallways where she walked, in the patient rooms where she brought comfort, in the break room where she once laughed with co-workers after long shifts. Her life had touched people, and even after her passing, she continued to touch them. Destiny's story became more than a local headline. It became a conversation. People in Jackson and far beyond began speaking more openly about relationship violence and the dangers many face when trying to leave a partner who refuses to let go. Advocates repeated a truth that society often overlooks. The most dangerous moment in an unhealthy relationship is when the victim tries to leave. Destiny had become a heartbreaking reminder of that reality. This reckoning was not meant to sensationalize her story. It was meant to honor her by acknowledging the truth. She deserved safety. She deserved support. She deserved a future. And if more people understood warning signs, maybe future tragedies could be prevented. Destiny's life was not defined by its ending. Her story is not just about the way she died. It's about the way she lived. She cared deeply. She worked hard. She loved her family and her job. She wanted to build a life that reflected her heart. She should be remembered for her strength, not for the violence she endured. And yet, her final chapter forces us to face something difficult. We cannot change what happened to her, but we can change what happens next by listening, learning, supporting, and protecting those who feel trapped, unheard, or unsafe. Destiny's name becomes a call to action, a call to awareness, a call to compassion, a call to do better. If Destiny's story moved you, if you felt her humanity, her hope, and the injustice of what she faced, then let her legacy continue through awareness. Someone watching this right now may need a reminder that they're not alone. Someone may need resources. Someone may need courage. Someone may need a voice telling them that love should never feel dangerous. So if you're able, share this story. Comment her name. Keep her memory alive. And if you or someone you know ever feels unsafe, please reach out to local support services. Your life and your future matter. This channel tells these stories not to frighten, but to shine light where silence has done enough damage. Destiny Stewart deserved so much more. Let's honor her by making sure her story is never forgotten.